And good. So so far we talk about again games, motivation for games, and that's the one that we will come back here today about one of the main motivations for the games. Talk about the concepts of essentially settlements or equilibriums, and we have seen like in particular extensive form games that you can represent a game as a tree, and that can be applied for lots of games that, or at least this kind of competitive games or zero-sum games that the people are playing. We talk about the repeated game. That was the last thing that we have. So there are two things that I wanted to draw your attention from. One was the motivation for the game, as I mentioned. This is, of course, there are lots of games that the people are playing chess and others. They have their markets. And the other one is the repeated game that we talked about last. The intersection of these two concepts actually goes in particular about auctions and in particular about online advertisement auctions. So that's a very good motivation for the whole thing. This is, so AdWord auctions. Generally, what you will go, I mean, say Google, you will go to travel, to the search, you are just searching travel. And then there are some of these things that are coming here. Yes, so there are some, I mean, actual search that are coming here. These are actual. And these are some advertisements that are coming. And as well as here. So this is the one that is actually called search ads. You have similar things at Amazon, for example. So when you go there and search, some results are coming, and some of them are called organic search, organic results. These are essentially, this actual are also called organic. And there are some of them which are advertisements. And search ad is a very important one. Essentially makes billions of dollars for Google as well as Amazon. The three top companies here, essentially in the advertisement world. The first one is Google. The second one is Facebook. The third one actually became Amazon. And the last one is Bing, Microsoft Bing. These are all top companies, you will see that in some sense they are making the money. And of course, Apple is also a big part of it that's doing it. Somehow indirectly, we may talk more about it. But these essentially trillion-dollar companies all get the money from advertising. So advertisement, which is an auction, and an online auction, makes essentially makes the companies which worth trillions of dollars. And even in terms of the value that each year is making, I think it would be probably like at least $500 billion or something. So it's a gold, essentially. The people I mentioned that the people are talking about going, for example, to learn ML, data science, etc., to make money. But actually, if you have a good understanding about game theory and computer science, which is essentially this computational game theory's introduction to that, that's the one that you can actually make a big things, because these are the things that needs both econ view about it, as well as econ means essentially pure game theory, plus computational issues. And both of them plays very important. So this is the advertisement auction. This is the one that I mentioned. There's another one that I wanted to also mention here. I mean, this is essentially called AdWord auctions. I mean, there are a different version of that, but generally it is the case that the companies like Google, I think here Yahoo was there. These are like a little bit outdated in terms of the companies. As I mentioned, Amazon and Facebook are the things that are making billions of dollars from this. And generally, the idea is based on the idea of hashtag, essentially, or AdWords. What is the things that businesses or advertisers place bids for individual AdWords. These are some kind of queries together with a daily budget limit. That's a very important one. These two are important, essentially. And then the search engine earns money whenever it shows this kind of ads and charges them some price. We will talk about it, which price, to show their ads. There are some, this was a little bit maybe more classic nowadays. There are new versions of that these keywords might be not just one word, maybe like essentially a sentence or something like this, more than just one keyword. And you can say and or something like this. If a person search for this and this or this. But one thing it is still in the case is the daily budget. That's a very important. And even more important things, I mean, even this one, the placing bids, is something that is currently like in lots of these businesses, it is called auto bid. That you may hear in these top companies. Auto bid essentially means that I don't really care about my ROI or ROAS. These are the same things. And what is the meaning of that? It means that essentially the amount of sales over the ad money. So I mean, there might be definition which is constant factor of this, but it is essentially the things. So you try to increase your ROI or ROAS, essentially return per money that you will spend. So how much sale you have and how much your ads money you are paying. You want essentially this ratio be as high as possible. So you want to pay less for that one and essentially get the maximum out of it. And generally, the way that these companies are doing, another one which, these companies are trying to do that is for individual people, it's hard to see what should be the actual bid. They have this auto bidding, then with the goal, for example, you say that I want to maximize my ROAS. They can compute it essentially how many you do the sales, etc. Especially for some companies like Amazon, that makes actually more sense because they're the advertisers, are indeed the sellers. But in the other cases like Google or others, Facebook, also they have the estimate for the ROAS. If they don't have the exact thing, they have some kind of proxies for it. You will say I want to maximize, and then you will say it is my daily budget, because generally you want to have some budget. You don't want to spend too much, essentially. But say that then you decide which bid you want to put it, like the system decides for it, such that maximize the ROAS. That is the more preferable things for the sellers, essentially, or advertisers. And it was there some study that was done with Amazon, and that shows that around in the last month, 80% of people, they don't change in their bids. For those people, actually makes sense to do this auto bidding, which is a very dynamic bid, and then essentially gets a better ROAS for them. Because again, it makes sense because you don't, you want to spend more in advertisement, you just increase your daily budget. But which ad, how much you want to add, you really don't care. So, okay, I want to do that such that at the end of the day, I get more clicks or I get more purchases. That's the thing that I care about. Then do whatever you want. You are telling, for example, Amazon or Google or Facebook. So this is a typical thing. That is for AdWords. There is another one that is very important as well. So this is the Google AdWords. I think the current thing is Google AdSense. That's the thing that has they changed it essentially. AdSense is the main things. Let me just change this one.
You have the select insurance code.
Do you think? Oh, there's some bug. Oh yeah, that is good. I think no. Yeah, thanks. Some bug, that should be the case. Yes, but anyhow, so this is it is called Google AdSense. That you can go there, and this was essentially the one that you can go and then create an account. I mean, everyone can create essentially account that spend money. That's very easy to do that. And the other one that I wanted to mention is a display ad auction. So this is another one that the difference between this and the previous one is that there you're doing some search, essentially, like at Amazon or Google or others you may do share. Maybe actually Facebook is more of this type as well. So I mean, there are some they may create. Okay, so what's the difference between this one and the previous one is that in the display ad auctions, you don't somehow explicitly mention what are the keywords. These keywords or these AdWords are created for you. So what's the meaning of that? So here, for example, this is the advertisement in this page. You will go there, and here some advertisements are coming. And this is like the display ad essentially. And it's a very one of the most complicated system essentially, this display ads. How does it work? It's quite complicated. It took me some time to essentially go with these companies to get it. But the good thing is that I have provided actually how does it work in one of these potentials of e-commerce. In my YouTube, go to potentials of e-commerce, and one of them actually talks about advertisement, online advertisement auction. Please watch it. That would be very hard to get it on the web or ChatGPT. That I can tell. Because that's the one somehow from inside I will mention how does it work. And it is very complicated. And if you know that, you are in a big advantage. Why? Because as I mentioned, that's a gold area. This is the area that they want some people who know some econ, some game theory, some computational issues, game theory. And this is a trillions of dollars there. I mean, of course, lots of ML is used here as well. For example, to obtain the probability of click. It is very important that if a user is coming, what is the chance that this guy essentially click on that? That's super important. But in addition of the ML, they need essentially people who are doing essentially this business of computational game theory. Lots of students actually are working in this area, those who are at the industry. So it is like a gold opportunity to know more about it and apply for this type of positions. But please go to that one, the potentials of e-commerce. And I think there are 8 of them, and then one of them is talking about online advertisement, and it talks how does it work. It's a very complicated system. But at the end of the day, is that I mean, you will go to some place, and there are some advertisements are shown to you. This is called display ad auctions. Corresponding things here, it is called a sponsored auctions or a sponsored product auction in Amazon. If you go at Amazon, when you search, I mean, you do search something, or actually after the search, when you see some item, this says that some sponsored product. And those sponsored products are very similar to this kind of display ads in that sense. And the main catch is that here, why you see these things, because there are some keywords are generated, but you don't know those keywords. These are some of the keywords that are generated through cookies or your previous search, etc., on the search engine, etc. So there are some keywords, and based on that, the best thing is shown to you. And so to just give a very abstract and high-level view for this one, is generally it is the case that a user essentially puts some query into the system. This query can be explicit in the case of search engine, or it can be implicit in terms of this kind of display ads. So based on some of these keywords, so there are some keywords that are generated. Then these keywords in an online manner, it is distributed among online, among all businesses or advertisers. Among these advertisers, depending on who pays more, and this is actually, you should call it expected, in an expected sense, pays more. That person gets the slot share. How much that advertiser gets charged, that's another story that we will talk more. Good. Is it clear? So generally, so you are essentially going to Amazon, Google, etc. Some keywords are generated. Again, even in display ads, based on your previous search, there are some keywords that describe essentially your current situation. It is explicit in the AdWords search, or it can be implicit in the display ad actions or a sponsored product. Based on that, then this kind of keywords is sent to the advertisers. Everything happens online. And generally, this is the one that is acceptable, is something between, the best case, if you can do it like 20 milliseconds, but sometimes it is up to 120 milliseconds is acceptable. So everything, all these online, huge auctions essentially, and lots of them. I think the latest that I remember this kind of display ads, I think it was in an hour probably, or maybe a day. It is 65 billion placement just happens for display ads. It's a huge number. I mean, just some estimates about it. I mean, you can get probably a better estimate now. And for each of these 65 billion, say even a daily one, which I believe it might be actually hourly, each of them there is an auction happens. That again, among these keywords, is distributed among all people that potentially want it. They will put their bid. This bid is put either by them or by auto bidding softwares. And then the one that has the highest expected essentially bid will be chosen and will be charged some amount, often less than its bid. And then you will see that. And this is $1 trillion business. Good. Like most successful companies essentially are these that are very expert in this. Good. So that's the thing, that is the importance of this business. And that's the thing that we need to know more about auction. Of course, let me go to this one. Good. So the auctions that we will consider, that's the one that I mentioned. We talk about computational game theory, and this kind of online advertisement auction is the one that exact intersection of all game theory stuff and computational issue should happen and should be coupled very nicely with each other, such that any bidding essentially successful things can happen. And again, there are other applications, like for example, these are the ones that I have mentioned more, or like essentially, this is called creative, this advertisement that is shown. And it can be a text, like for search that we have seen it. It can be essentially a photo, or it can be a video. That's the one that, for example, you will see at YouTube, or some of them at Amazon, you are seeing that as well. When you want to see some item descriptions, you may see some video. So video ads become more and more important. Tons of other ads are there. So that's the motivation for the problem. But of course, the auction was not due to this online advertisement, which is a big business now. And that's generates something that has been done for a long time. So that auction has been a way, other than bargaining, you can always, of course, bargain, but that is a more formal way to sell a fixed supply of commodity, an item essentially that you want to sell. In the advertisement world, that would be just one ad slot that you are selling, for which there is no well-established ongoing market. So in some sense, yeah, maybe that is more relaxed in terms of the online advertisement, because there is a well-established ongoing market. So bidders are the people who are making the bids. And as I mentioned, these are advertisers, for example, or sellers. At Amazon, we call them, or Oversight, or Wayfair, we call it sellers. These are the ones that actually can make the advertisement. They will put some bids, and these bids, it would be either manual or like essentially by them. So these bids would be either by them or by auto bidding. Or by auto bidding softwares. So what is a bid in general? It's a proposal to pay various amounts of money for the company. And as I mentioned, generally, this is called the efficient system. The efficiency of, we call it efficient if this commodity is sold to the bidder who makes the largest bid. That's a typical thing. How much they pay, it might be not their business. And that's essentially the big research area. So the examples, of course, these are, I will say, the more classic examples are real estate, houses, that's art, oil leases, essentially this kind of spectrum auctions. These are like, for example, for wireless, that there are some spectrums that these big wireless companies, including Google. Google is also a big player here nowadays. Like AT&T, Verizon, etc. They will buy. T-Mobile, they will buy. And eBay, Google ads, of course, is the one, but there are lots of others like Facebook ads, Amazon ads, etc. Yeah.
Radio stations?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So that's the thing. Essentially, this is called spectrum auctions. This is run by FCC, if I remember correctly. And this is the thing, that this spectrum, this frequency, essentially, you can buy it. Like these big companies are buying it because that's the one that they are using for example, for wireless or any other purposes. But generally, wireless is important. For this particular thing, they can essentially serve their customers. It is important to get this kind of things. And it's, again, big research area. That's also billions of dollars. It's not as big as this kind of online advertisement. Another one is the health market, essentially, or health services market. And that is still a bit of more mystery, but more and more applications of that. For example, I think you may know about this GoodRx, if I remember correctly. These two, if you want to get some medicine, or that you can use that one to find essentially a cheaper medicine, because there are different providers provide something for you and you can get it. Tons of applications. And again, this is the gold, opportunities for you who know computer science and have good knowledge about this kind of game theory to get involved in that. Lots of companies, they get the money out of this. And this, there are several kinds of auctions. Lots of them are incomplete information or Bayesian game. These are all probabilistic, essentially. Like when you do here, you don't know all the information. You have just some information. You have some probabilities. Based on that, you decide. And one important thing that we talk a lot, so the concept of bid is very important. The other one is the bidder's valuation, bidder value or valuations. Is that how much this commodity it is worth to the bidder? So in a classic sense, this essentially bidder's value is known to the bidder, but maybe not to the others. A typical example that you can see is, for example, for a house. You may have some value for the house that you think that's the right value, but you don't bid that value. You try to essentially do maybe cheaper to get this. And this is this whole idea of this truthful mechanism that we will talk later. It means that you want to design some mechanism that the people actually say their real value, their real valuations to you. But of course, you should guarantee that if I tell you the actual valuation, you don't use it against me. That's the whole concept of truthfulness, or it is called strategy proof, that you say that, okay, so this is the main thing. So this bidding and the valuations, these are two different, it can potentially quite different. And the people may not tell your, I mean, I don't want to call it a lie, but this is a definition. A bid, it might be different from your actual valuations. And the life would be much simpler if the people tell you their valuation, but then what is the guarantee that they want is that this is generally the concept of truthfulness. That if I lie about my valuations as a bid, I cannot gain anything. That's the concept of truthfulness that we will talk about. So truthfulness essentially asks for these things, that you should guarantee that if I lie about my valuation, I cannot gain anything. You may not, I mean, lose anything, but you should not gain it. So that's the thing that lots of things, it calls also, it is called truthfulness, also called incentive compatible and strategy proof. These are a different name for that. Strategy proof or incentive compatible. So you try to make sure that this bid and the bidder valuations are the same. But creating this truthful mechanism is not a trivial one. And there are lots of stories on that one that we will talk more about it when we talk about this bidder valuation. But anyhow, this is the auction. Generally, we are considering in the simplest case, there is one item, but it might be lots of items. Like, for example, advertisement auction. Why these are, by the way, repeated auctions, repeated games, because these are these advertisements that are coming one after the other. Advertisement slot, essentially, or advertisement opportunities. And then you need to decide how much you want to bid for each of them, if it is not an auto bidder, for example. But still, even auto bidder needs to decide how much bid you want to put it there. And then you need to spend your budget from your budget such that you don't exceed your daily budget or sometimes monthly budget. Generally, daily budget is the one that the people are. Good. So daily budget is the one that the bid is the one that you may generate, or some other companies will generate for you, or like the same like Google or Amazon or others they are generating for you. A famous company essentially that makes the deal for you is the Trade Desk. This is actually a company that started maybe with 2-3 billion. Now the value is much more, like around more than I think 20 billion valuation. And this is the one that you will go there and you will mention what are the objectives that you have. They are making the bids for you. So in some sense, it is an auto bidder company. You will mention your things. You can, of course, go to, if you want to do advertisement at Google or Amazon, they have the tools for you to do auto bidding. But Trade Desk is another one. Maybe you don't trust essentially Google, the same company that charges you to do the bid for you. But Trade Desk is the one that can do. And that is essentially the one that provides for advertisers this is how you should do the bidding. Good. So it's a repeated auction. The items are coming one at a time. And then lots of people are doing, lots of them is online, that in some sense the online actually causes this kind of repeated games, that this one is coming, some people are coming, put some bits. Generally, I mean, as I mentioned, in almost all of them, the highest bit gets the things. But you need to be careful about the highest, I will say highest expected bit. I will talk about it later, why I say expected. That person gets it and then gets a charge, generally some value, which is okay. So this is the third thing that we are talking about. We talk about bits, we talk about bidder valuation, and the last thing is that how much is the price. So you may do some bits, you may win it, but they may not charge you your bid essentially. They may generally charge you something less than or equal to your bid. Again, there are some cases maybe they charge you more than the bid if you are allowing them to do that. But generally, you will be charged some price that would be less than or equal to these bids that you are doing. And good. And there are two goals for the auctioneer. Auctioneer or mechanism designer is the one that who is running this auction. Good. Auctioneer is generally. For them, there are two things that they care about it. One is the efficiency of the system. What is efficiency? Efficiency is the sum of bits. Or I will say sum of actually bidder valuation. So you generally want to have, I mean, this is the auctioneer. This auctioneer, you can think about like a government who is running an auction. This government try to give these items to the people that who really have the sum of the valuations of these people who got these items is maximized. That generally is considered a very good, I mean, good face auctioneer. I mean, that you want to say, okay, these people have the highest value, let's give it to them. And of course, you try to sometimes you try to maximize the sum of the bidder valuations that these people are. And note that this is the bidder valuation, not necessarily the bid. And these two are different. There are others who may actually, like for example, lots of these companies, they consider the sum of the prices. This is called revenue. So the prices that will be charged, the prices are actual money that is collected. And you try to maximize some of these prices. So two criteria are important. You want to say how efficient is this auction? Means that like this, like if you consider the people who wanted the most these items from their bidder valuation, how much you are considering that one comparing to those people that you essentially gave the item. You can consider how much this essentially efficient. Again, mentioned the efficient one is that you want to give essentially to the people who wanted the most. Maybe you cannot do it. You want to say how much you are far from that. That's one thing. The other one is revenue. How much you are making money. And these two are correlated. So of course, I mean, they are correlated. But generally, this is the idea that revenue is important, but you need to have some, even if you totally care about revenue, if you don't do it in an efficient way, you may lose your customer in the long run. Because the customer wants, oh, if I want it, that is fair that I will get it essentially. If I really want this one more than others, I have higher valuation, I should get it. So revenue, it might be important for lots of these companies, but they cannot do it essentially just for revenue. They need to always have some kind of efficiency because in the long run, they may lose their customers, which is in this case, their advertisers. Good. So I think here I wanted to get a general idea about this auction. How does it work? Then we will go into details. Good. Now, so I will say types of auctions, which are more classic auctions, but actually these are the same thing also that in the advertisement auctions happen. So, and generally we have two types of auctions that happens again in the advertisement world: first price auction and second price auction. So these are and you will see these ones actually turns into one of these. So we have the first price auction, and this is the second price auction. What's the main difference? The main difference is that in the first price, you will charge the first bid, charge your bid. Here in the second price, charged second. Highest bid. Or I will say actually better. This is equivalent of charged highest bid among others. Good. So these are the things that is a big thing. So this is the one that happened, for example, at Google. They started with advertisement auctions. Almost all these auctions that we are talking about, sponsor product auctions, I don't know, AdWord auctions, like a search auction essentially, or display ads, video ads, etc. All of them are coming based on these two concepts. How much you are charging a person? One, you are charging your bid essentially, the first price bid. So if you get the item, you will get it charged essentially there. The second one is that if you get the item, again, if you don't get the item, generally you pay zero. Not always the case, but sometimes it's the case. Lots of the time. Then you will be charged the second highest bid. Or I will say that you got it, because by definition that you had the highest bid. It means that what is the highest bid among others? That's the one that will be charged. Good. That's the thing that I mentioned. So either this item you will get it. By definition, in lots of this one, the person who has the highest value, he will get it. And again, we are focusing here just for one item. So that for simplicity, we talk about one item. We talk about some other version, but say for now, it's just one item, one advertisement slot that you are talking about. Good. For this advertisement slot, then either you will be charged your bid, because you were the highest bid. By definition, you will get it. Then either you will be charged your bid, or you will be charged the second highest bid, which is equivalent of, because you were the highest bid, it means that highest bid among others. That's the whole concept essentially. It's a bit actually funny that thing I didn't plan for it. I was talking about this kind of advertisement action, and I had this shirt which is Amazon advertising. Actually, when I was working there, I had it. But anyhow, good. So that's the whole concept. And why what's the difference between first price and second price? I want to just give you the high level idea. That is the main things. If you are charged the first price, this is not truthful. And this is truthful. This is the classic one. Why? In the first price, you get this item, correct? You will be charged that price. It means that if you are bidding a little bit less, still you may get that item and you pay less. Correct? So you have incentive to lie. If you know that there's a good chance that you will get it, you don't want to go your actual valuation. You will give something lower It is called the bid shading. That's a typical thing that happens. So in the first price, it is some concept is called bid shading. That's and these are professional words that I'm talking about, like Amazon advertising or Google or other. Bid shading, essentially, that's the meaning of that you know your actual, you will compute what is your valuation. It might be different for different, for example, in advertisement. But you may not give that bid essentially to the auction. You will shade it. And again, there are companies that are now auto bid shading. They will shade for you. Because you know that if you give the actual thing, you will be charged there. So you don't want to give that. Why the second one is good? The second price. The second price is the one that you can be essentially a happy person. So, okay, I will just give my bidder valuation. Why? Because if my bidder valuation is high, I will win it. But I will be not charged based on my own bid. That's the whole idea. You will be charged based on all bids of others. Good? Because so what is the case? So you may want this item, say this particular item is 1,000. Maybe there's another person here is the other person, it wants only for $1. If you go first price, how much you are paying for this? If you want to go bidder valuation, you will go 1,000. You need to pay 1,000, and you will, if you do at the actual bidder valuation, which is 1,000, if that is your bid, then you will pay 1,000 and you will get it. So you don't get any benefit essentially. You want it for 1,000. In some sense, you didn't get any discount. Your utility was zero. This value was 1,000, and you paid 1,000 for it. So you didn't gain anything. However, if it is the second price, you will go and say, okay, my valuation is 1,000. Other person is come, my valuation is $1. Then you will get it because the highest person gets. How much you will be charged? $1. So here, in the previous case, if you know that you will be charged 1,000, you really don't want to say 1,000. You want to shade your bid. If you know that there is no strong competitor, why do you say 1,000? You just say, I wanted maybe $10. If you get it $10, then you will pay $10. Your actual valuation was 1,000. This is some masterpiece, essentially, art, for example. You are the only one who knows that what is the value of this. If it is the case, I mean, if it is like the first price, you don't want to say 1,000 because all others, they don't know essentially anything about this. You will go with $10. How much is your utility or payoff, essentially? The actual value that you get out of this, it is the utility, is 1,000 minus $10. $990 you actually make. But if it is the second price, doesn't matter. You can just say my value was 1,000. You will be charged $1. So then you have $999 as the actual thing. And essentially, everything you will talk about the auctions, you will see either first price or second price. These are the only things that exist in the market. And there are some generalization called a generalized second price auction and others that you can read, and we will talk briefly about them. But this is more for advanced courses. But that's essentially, these are the two ideas. One assumption here that we have is that there is a possibility of collusion. What's the meaning of collusion? Is that this is some secret agreements for some kind of fraud purposes. Here, there's a group of bidders who won't bid against each other, but to essentially, they will essentially collude or somehow collaborate with each other to put low bids such that you can get this item from the auctioneer with a low price. Or sometimes they are doing essentially, they are doing the reverse. They are some kind of, they put place some kind of essentially funny bids, just some kind of virtual bids to just make the market very hot, such that you will go and then you will pay that amount. Some of the real buyers pay for that, and then the auctioneer gets a very valuation. So if lots of things that we are talking about, if you say assume that there is a collusion, then lots of this kind of equilibrium analysis does not work. However, this is another interesting thing. In lots of places, collusion is essentially is fraud things, and you will get charged for it. And also another thing is that, like for example, in advertiser world, etc., you cannot really collude because there are so many opportunities, so many other slots, and it is hard essentially to collude with your with the other people because you don't know the value of the others, who are the other advertisers, etc. Having said that, collusion happens essentially. For example, this is the stories that you can read regarding Apple versus Google, for example. These are the cases that essentially say, for example, Apple and Google, they had something that Apple pays some money to Google. Sorry, Google pays some money to Apple or other things, such that the Google search essentially be the default search for this, or Chrome be the default browser for these devices. The same thing happened, like for example, Microsoft versus other companies who are making computers, that the Windows be the default. So these are some kind of, at the bigger level may happen, but in lots of them it is impossible. And again, lots of the time, because of it's a very distributed, lots of bidders are involved, collusion would be very hard. Even if you can do it with your friends or others, you will be too little in terms of the a bidder or a bidder, essentially person who is putting bid, even your entire people that you are colluding. You are too small that you can affect the market. So we can assume that lots of the case this does not happen. So and these are some famous ones that actually the people are talking about. These are like classic ones that you need to know about it. But at the end, you will see that each of them either will be first price or second price action, or almost equivalent of it. So English, Dutch auction, first price, sealed bid, and victory auctions. As I mentioned, at the end of the day, it will be either first price or second. That's the only type of thing that you will see. Good. So that was some overall things about the auctions, online auctions, the motivation, etc. That I want to make sure that you good. So let's go to the So let's talk about the English auction. Again, you will hear this one in more like the econ board, essentially, or the people from economists, essentially. So these names come from some oral auctions in English-speaking countries, but I think they're the actual root goes to ancient Rome, essentially. So these are for commodities like antique, artwork, cattle, horses, wholesale, vegetables, etc. What are the rules of these auctions? An auctioneer solicits an opening bid from the good. You start with some bid. Anyone who wants to bid should call out a new price, at least 3 higher than the previous price. And C should be at least $1. The bidding continues until all bidders but one have dropped it. The highest bid gets the object being sold for a price equal to his or her final bid. So again, so this is the thing. So I'm coming here, I'm the auctioneer. I said, okay, what is the current one bid tell me? Essentially, you can say start with 0. You can start from 0, but sometimes, the price is, I don't know, a billion, you don't want to just go with 0. There's some other thing. But somebody say, okay, this is the current best thing is, you will see it essentially in lots of this artwork. The current best bid is $20. Anyone wants to bid more. Once, twice, 3 times. If not, that person with $20 gets. Somebody say, oh no, I want $25. And you cannot go, I don't know, $20 plus 0.0001. That is impossible. You need to go at least some value up. Generally, this is something like C, at least $1, but sometimes you have it more. You need to go at least 1,000. Otherwise, they don't consider it separate. And this is more for efficiency of the system. So in this case, each bit I, if VI, so you are using two important things. VI means the actual valuation, bidder valuation. Is the I's valuations of the commodity, which is the private information. We are assuming it's private information. Again, something like auto bidding, it is something it is known even to auctioneers, but you will trust them. Either you will trust and you will do it Google or Amazon, etc., or you may ask Trade Desk, which is a third company who's doing that, such if you don't trust this company. Or you think that they are doing better. And then there's the BI. The BI is the I's final bid. Good. B means bid essentially, and VI means the valuation. And in this case, what is the I's profit? The profit also, it is called utility or payoff. These are the same thing. Payoff utility profit would be the pi I, which is the VI minus BI. And there is and everyone else's profit would be zero because they don't pay anything, they don't get it. And of course, as I mentioned, if you really pay your actual valuations as your bid, then you don't get that much. So what is the Nash equilibrium for this English auction? So this is the Nash equilibrium. Each bidder I participate until the bidding reaches VI. So you will participate until it is the highest value. I don't want to pay more. And then you will drop out. The highest bid I gets the object at the price BI less than or equal to VI. And in this case, the pi I would be VI minus BI, which can be greater than or equal to 0. And as you will see here, BI, what is the BI? This is closest to the second highest value. So this is the second price action. Good. So, but again, what is the equilibrium? So everyone is doing essentially bidding until when it reaches your valuation. At that time, it is 0, your payoff or your profit. If it goes above, you don't. If your valuation is really $10 and you want to pay $20, then there is something wrong essentially with your reasoning. You don't want to do that. So if your actual valuation is $10, your bid should not go more than $10, or even probably a little bit less than $10 you want to get. Then you will go there until it reaches your actual valuation. After that, you will drop. Then who gets it? The highest person gets it, but that person does not pay his actual or her actual valuation. Pays second highest bid, essentially, or very close to second highest bid. So English auction actually is a second price auction. One which is an equilibrium, I mean, just consider cases. So these are the players that you are with. So you want to say that this should be the equilibrium. You should go until you can bid until it hits your valuation. After that, you should drop. So suppose bidder J deviates from this, but what was the Nash equilibrium definition? Is that should be your best response. If everyone else is doing this, I want to say that your best response would be essentially go to this like things. And again, Nash equilibrium says that if everyone else stick with their current thing, then you should go with this. If J essentially deviates by dropping out earlier, what will happen? So, as I mentioned, so this is your actual valuation, BI. And this is the BI. If the BI is coming, I mean, if you can drop sooner. But if you drop sooner, then your profit would be 0 because you don't pay anything, you don't gain. Here, at least you will get VI minus BI. So as long as the BI is less than your bid, you are getting some profit. So you are not gaining anything. The other one, if you deviate by bidding greater than BJ, then of course, in this case, if your valuation is this, and then you go essentially here, then you are losing money. It's better to drop off, because if you drop out sooner, then in this case, then it would be you are just getting zero profit. But here you are get a negative profit. It means that you are losing some money. But that's essentially, it means that if all others are doing that, that's the best thing that you should do. What? So what is the thing essentially happen? This is generally correct for any second price action. If there are a large range of valuations, then difference between so if there's a large range of valuations, then the difference between the highest and second highest can be very large. So this is the example that I have mentioned. If this is some artwork that you so this is some artwork that the actual valuation for you, like you have a valuation of 1,000, and the other person that they wanted is essentially around 1, or I say 1 plus epsilon, very small. In this case, you can actually gain a lot. So in general, if there's a big difference between the bidder's valuation, actually the person who wins it can get a very good profit out of it, because you may essentially sell at $1, charge it $1 because it's the second highest price, and then what will happen? The valuation that you will, the actual valuation was 1,000, so you get essentially 999. And in general, this is the case. If n is the number of bidders, and if you are assuming that these valuations are distributed uniformly, it means that if n becomes larger, the difference between the first price and second price becomes less and less. And then you are paying you're very close to your actual valuations. But this is not always the case. As I mentioned, it might be the case one person knows the value of this art, wants to pay that. All others n-1 people are just don't know the valuation. They are saying essentially not much. Somehow I pay very little for that. So if these are uniformly at random, this will not happen if everything is divided between 0 and 1,000. But it might be the case that, and generally you cannot, maybe there are some cases that you say that if n is large, for example, in this online auction, that may happen. Not all the time. By the way, what is the issue between why not first price? Like, what is the, like, it seems that second price is a very good option. Good, because you can just mention your true valuation, and then rest assured that, I mean, the price would be independent of, so that's the whole idea. The price that you will pay would be independent of your actual bid. You will get it if you deserve it, and you just pay something which is independent. Everything seems good, essentially. No lying, no bit shading that you need to do it for first price. There is one big problem. What? The revenue can be very little for auctioneer. So if Google wants to do that, or Amazon wants to do that, then essentially somebody like Nike, for example, wants this advertisement with a big amount of money. But like Nike can pay $10 here, but you will charge it only $1. Why? Because all other competitors, Nike knows the valuations of these and is able to pay $10 each. But because all others advertiser that you have it, they are not strong or not, I mean, that much wealthy, they just pay $1. So in that case, Google gets or Amazon gets only $1 or Facebook. That's the main problem, that this seems very good, essentially. You can get true valuation. It is very, I mean, for customers, for bidders, it's a very good thing that don't need to lie or do anything. But the issue is that then companies, the auctioneer does not get the actual money. And that's the main problem. And what do they do for this? There are lots of tricks that they are doing. And these are like some of the things. They try to, it is another auction that we will talk about, is called reserve price auction. What is the reserve price? It's that this is some value that I have. So for this item, I have a reserve price X. What's the meaning of reserve price? It means that if you give me less than X, I don't accept it. Like this is a house. I don't pay less than this. I will rent it, essentially. You can consider reserve pricing some kind of like the alternative outside option that you have. I don't pay less than this. I only sell it if it is greater than X. This also is a truthful auction. Good, because the reserve price is a very simple one. If you give me less than this, I don't accept it. Above this, I will accept. And you can see that essentially, if you tell if your actual valuation is less than X, then you should not say, essentially, you should not bid. If it is greater than X, then you should bid. So that's a truthful auction. Now, the typical thing that these companies are doing a lot is the second price plus some reserve price. Why? Because at least in this case, 1 plus epsilon, they will say, for example, the value here should be at least $10. This $10 is a reserve price. Good. So you can say that if it is less than $10, I don't sell it. Otherwise, I will give it to the highest person. How much do I charge it? A second highest thing, or the reserve price. Good. The max of a second highest bid and reserve price. So this is actually one that is used a lot. But then the issue is that how do you compute the reserve price? And that's essentially the source of issues, that if you compute the reserve price, this is the unfortunately, lots of these companies, they compute the reserve price based on the history of the previous bids. So it means that if, like, for example, Nike comes for a few weeks, it puts the high bid there. At that time, it will maybe charged as $1. Because at that time there was. But after a few weeks, then like Google or Amazon say, oh, the price of this was like $100. Then it put the reserve price equal to $100 or $1,000. In that case, after a few weeks, Nike, it is good for Nike for a few weeks, just pay essentially truthful. But because it gave the information to Google, Microsoft, Amazon, or others, Facebook, then they know the valuation is actually 1,000. After a few weeks, they make the reserve price 1,000. And that's the one that essentially this kills this idea of truthfulness. Then Nike says, why should I give it? Yes, I may get, maybe for a few weeks I am fine, but after a few weeks, they know they might true valuation, they will have a reserve price which is higher. And this is one of the issues essentially with the second price, and why it is important. This was actually, the thing that I mentioned is exactly the reason that happens. Display ad auctions, first it went to second price auctions. That was, Google was running second price. I think it was maybe for 6 months or something. Then they went, first they were first price auction. So display ad was first price auction. Then said that actually is not good because the people are lying. They went to second price for a long time, until a few years ago, that because all this trick that these companies are doing, and then this reserve price, that it is actually computed from my own price, because as long as there is a function of my own price, even before that time, then it is not truthful anymore. Then the people say that we don't want it. You just tell us it is second price, but you are doing all the tricks. It went again back to first price. So display ad was first price, then it went second price for a long time. Something like, I don't know, maybe around 20 years, maybe. And then again went back to first price. Because, okay, first price is clear. You need to do the bit shading. But you will go second price, you will tell us it is second price, but you are just charging some reserve price. And this reserve price, you are doing all the tricks to get the reserve price from my own price. Essentially means that this is not truthful. It's not a truthful one. So it's not truthful, then go first price. Why do you want to go second? And again, why they are doing that? Because in the second price, these companies, they are losing revenue. What is the question?
In this case, if the reserve price private?
Yeah, I mean, but the reserve price, the question is whether the reserve price is private or not. Doesn't matter. You will understand because it's a repeated auction. You know that what is the reserve price. You will do it a lot of them. So even though it is a private value, they don't announce it. But they will essentially, but the people know about it because the repeated auction, they just do some kind of binary search to see what is the reserve price. So in some sense, being private or not is not important because it's a repeated auction with lots of times. And so you can easily actually find that reserve. Good. So this is a story about this first price, second price. We will talk more about it. And this auction is like beautiful, very deep. And again, this is a gold opportunity. The people say, I will always say, they talk, oh, I need to go and work in the machine learning, data science, etc. This is the goal. If you know this information and you can use it essentially. Of course, you are using ML here and other things, but if you know the whole thing, you can actually get much better ideas. These are lots of the details that are. Okay, so I am stopping here, and we will continue in the next session regarding this action.